capacity to know, right? It has this knowing awareness quality. And that's what we're using when we're thinking, we're thinking this, we're thinking that, right? So if right now, if I close my eyes and I hear there's a fan, there's a part of me that's aware of that fan. That awareness is the awareness part of mind. Like if I close my eyes, I'm aware of all you people in the room, right? My mind is aware. Does that make sense? And so what happens is we have a mind that's aware and a mind that's clear. And then interaction starts happening with our senses. Then that clarity then reflects in the nature of what it is that we are. Like right now I see you, right? So my mind is clear, but right now it's seeing you. But it doesn't mean that clarity's gone away. Okay? And so they talk about it like clouds in the sky. Like the mind is like the sky, and the thoughts are like the clouds in the sky, or the thoughts are like the mud and the water in the water glass. But the good thing is that as long as we know that, then we know that, and we have glimpses of this clarity. And what happens is the more you meditate, you have, especially if you're just watching the breath going in and out and being aware of the body and letting the energy relax, then you get these little gaps of when your mind's not thinking. And that is a gap where you can become aware of the clarity of your mind. And the more you practice, the more the gap lengthens, and the more you have this clarity, and the more you begin to identify with that is me, that I am not my thoughts, I am not my experience. My experience is happening because I have, a mind, I have ears, I have nose, I have mouth, I see stuff, and it's just the nature of human existence to be constantly reflecting. The mind constantly reflects its experience. And then on top of that, then we make the story, right? So really all that's happening is we're hearing words, right? We're hearing words, and someone's going, "You're an asshole." But it's my choice to react to that with my judgment about that. Oh, this is bad. But if excuse me. But if I just allow myself to think, oh, I just heard some sounds. All it was sounds that are reflecting in the mirror, in the clarity of my mind. And it's my past habits that are going to go, that's bad, and then I'm going to get all this emotional stuff on top. But what happens is with more and more meditation practices, it just becomes sounds. We don't have to put good and bad on things. And and he had something, but it doesn't mean then that we lose our sense of morality and ethical behavior. We definitely have that. But what it does is gives us a little bit of freedom, so that when someone says, "You're an asshole," I don't have to get angry. I can just go, "Oh, that was nice." Yes.
This may not, to me, I've lost 3 friends recently. One is an old friend of 33 years, one is 16, one very close people.
Mm-hmm.
And I accept the fact that they're gone, but I feel something, but I don't cry.
Oh.
And it's a matter of fact. It's not a matter of fact. I'm sad about it because I love them, but I don't understand why I don't cry. Is it because I'm refusing to feel? And I've been sitting with it with meditation. Yes, I feel quiet, and I feel sad. And I know they're in a better place than here.
Mm-hmm. Well, maybe you need to talk to somebody, because I know when I'm feeling things, I'm like you. I don't really allow myself to go the whole 9 yards when I'm with myself. But if I go to a friend's house and start talking about my problems, then the tears come.
I never talk about anything.
But maybe you need to talk about it. Have you got somebody you can talk to?
I don't want to talk about it.
Oh, well then you're not going to cry.
Then
you're not going to cry, and maybe that's okay.
Oh, really? Okay. Because my friend wanted to talk about it because she started to cry. And I said, please, I can't talk to you.
Well, there's nothing wrong with crying.
I know, I'd like to. I
Yeah.
would feel a release.
Yeah, well then maybe look at why you don't wanna talk to anybody.
Because that's the way I am. When I get sick, I wanna just hide.
Yeah.
And I don't want anybody to know, and I just be quiet and.
Well, maybe you need to change that.
Pardon?
Maybe it's time to change that.
Well,
Experiment. Give yourself
I used to be the other way. I used to be so emotional.
Yeah.
I used to have a story for everything.
Yeah.
I have no stories anymore.
Yeah, well, I know that one too, but you know what it is we actually still do have stories, we just don't let us tell
Yeah.
them anymore.
Well, I don't allow it anymore
That's
because
right.
of meditation.
That's right, but you know what, I've discovered that that's really not, in my life, I've done the same thing. What she's saying is that, I don't know if you can hear her, but she's saying that she's not feeling an emotion that she feels that she ought to feel, cause she's been meditating so long, she knows how to like medicate herself so she doesn't allow herself to feel. And I think, because I'm the same, and I think that's a mistake in meditation.
Okay.
I think that this is why I'm saying this thing about truth. Because I think what we do is, rather than actually feeling the energy and working with it, we've gotten very good at just stuffing it. I'm the same. And so it takes something really major to really rock our boat so that then we'll open back up again, because I think the real point of meditation, which is something we need to think about as we're beginning our meditation, is that it's not about shutting down. You know? It's not about keeping everything in. It's just not about being super effulgent about everything that's going on. But we still need, it's really important to recognize what's going on.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, and so what we've done, and I've done the same thing, you know, I'm a good meditator now, you know, I can.
I wouldn't say I'm so good.
No, but we think that, but anyway, whatever it is, you know, we've learned to just kind of like put it aside. And I think now our job is to become more human.
Well, I've learned to accept loss.
Yeah.
Because I've had a lot of loss.
Yeah.
Children, husbands.
Yeah, well, the older we
all
get,
that.
the more loss we have.
Yeah.
Does someone wanna respond? Yeah, well, you already, what do you wanna say?
I just wanted to say that I think everyone's process is different.
Yeah.
You know, and I know that for me, when I started.
Can you speak up just a little bit?
When I started with my own practice
Yeah.
consistently, I felt overwhelming emotion.
Yeah.
And things started to get dislodged, and sometimes I would suddenly be very depressed and I didn't really understand why.
Yeah,
but
that's
then
right.
over time, it seemed to be part of the process
It
of just
is.
working with that stuff, so that now it still comes and goes, but I don't really get carried away with it as
Yeah.
much anymore.
Well, that's also, I mean, I think the main point of meditation is to just be true to what's happening. You know, and maybe if nothing's happening, you can be true to that.
Well, these people are real important to me.
Yeah.
Because there's not a day that went by that these two people weren't that much a part of my life.
Yeah, well, have you made like a little shrine to them or something? You might wanna do that.
I guess I haven't tried to do that. I
Yeah.
haven't even wanted to do that.
Yeah, well, you're still, I mean, I think the first, you know, if you read Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, the first part of grief is denial. You don't wanna believe it. So maybe you're just still in that very first process. And a little while down the road, you'll be able to feel more how you feel. Cause I know we're really good at, you know, I don't wanna know about this right now. Because it might be just too overwhelming, and it might be a safety thing, you know?
Well, when my mother died, it took me 8 months to catch up with me.
Yeah, so you might just be in a state of shock,
Maybe.
you know? Cause that can be true too, you know? You might just be in a state of shock, and, you know, you just kinda can't believe it yet.
I believe it because I don't see him every day.
Yeah, but still, I
it's
mean,
not the emotion.
yeah, it takes a while for your emotions to catch up with what's going on, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Thank you.
yeah, I'm not exactly sure, but those are the,
Yeah.
yeah, cause I'm like that too. But all I know for me is if I go talk to somebody, quite often, then I'll you know, even with things not as bad as grief, but I'll think everything's okay, and then I meet a friend and we start talking, and then, and when I actually start to cry is when I know I've finally hit the nail on the head of what's going on in my life. You know?
Yeah.
And sometimes it takes a while to talk it out, you know? Yeah.
And maybe you should talk to them, like, do you, like, you know,
talk to them because
like,
it,
Yeah.
you have to
your
talk to them at
memories.
night. I
Yeah.
talked to them in the daytime. I said, why aren't you here, Mary?
Yeah.
We were having we had such a good time.
Yeah.
And I'd say to Jim, I don't see you every morning. He was so positive,
Yeah.
you know. It's just,
See, you back to cry. You
Yeah,
can
I
cry.
know. I know.
You can cry.
I'm with you, it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's okay to cry about
Yeah.
it. You know, sometimes we just need a witness.
yeah, maybe.
Yeah, see? Yeah. Yeah. You've lost your best friends, you know, that's a huge loss. Yeah. Yeah. Good.
We're all crying together now.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna cry too. Let's all have a good cry. Do you know the practice of Tonlin? That'll help too sometimes. Taking and giving, you know that one? I don't wanna don't get too intellectual now, just cry. Yeah. We love you.
Thank you.
I know you've been around this community for a while, so,
Yes,
yeah.
I'm very grateful for it.
Yeah.
Believe me, I'm a wonderful teacher.
Mhm.
I'm grateful for everything that I've had because it's been a wonderful experience. It's made my life so much better.
Yeah.
Can't even tell you how much better.
Yeah.
Because I used to be all over the place, right, Jackie?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just so much better for me.
Yeah, well, maybe go have a cup of tea with Jackie and cry for an hour. It's okay.
I know. If I could cry more, I would, but this is the most I've been able to.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you, darling.
It's an important step, isn't it?
I think so.
Yeah.
I really think
Yeah,
so.
I think so too.
Because I thought I was missing that.
Mhm.
And I'm thinking, am I so, placid that
No, I think you're just in shock.
I think I'm in shock too,
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah.
So much has happened so
Yeah,
fast.
yeah, I mean, it could take a year
Yeah.
at least
Like
before.
my mother, 8 months.
Yeah, no, it's too much.
Yeah, and my children, it took 15 years to come to terms with that.
Yeah. But I mean, the thing is, that's just how we are, you know? I mean, I think to try to judge ourselves and say, well, I should be over this by now. Well, if you're not over it, you're not over it. And it's okay, you know? And I think one of the things I told Jackie I wanted to talk about this morning, kind of jumping around, but we can go back, save your questions, is creating a sacred space in your house.
Yeah.
You know, even if you have a busy household and you've got kids and stuff, you know, even if you just have a little corner in your bedroom, it's really important, if you're serious about having a meditation practice, or even not serious, but if you're just thinking maybe that would be a good thing in my life, to make a place where that's all that you do. Whether it's a chair or one of these things, you know, these meditation cushions, and then get yourself a little table, you know, and put on that table things that remind you of your highest, best person. You know, the things that open your heart. It doesn't necessarily have to be a Buddha statue. You know, if you relate to Buddha, then use a Buddha statue. But if not, you know, it can be, you know, Jesus. It could be, it doesn't matter what, but it's got to be, you know, you go to the beach and you collect shells, you know. I mean, everybody, but you just need to create a place that feels like your place where you can go and just be yourself, and that when you sit there, you know, I have, 20 minutes of uninterrupted time where I can just let myself be myself with whatever's going on in my life without any judgment, without any, a place where I can go and be gentle and accepting of what it is, you know, where you can go and feel gratitude if you're happy, where you can go and feel sad, where you're sad. But I think to survive in this world, because this world is getting crazier and crazier by the day, that we all need a little place where we can go to rejuvenate and regenerate and pat ourselves on the back and saying it's going to be okay. And it's just a place for us, you know, because we're always so involved in other people, but it's good to create a relationship with yourself where you can listen to what's going on. It's so important to listen without judgment to what's happening in your life. You know? Because as soon as something comes up and go, oh, I'm not allowed to think that, you know, then that's where the truth is gone. You know? And so when I'm talking about truth, we have to start, before we can discern truth in the outer world, we need to have our truth in our inner world. What's true for me? You know, Marshall Rosenberg, who does nonviolent communication, maybe some of you know about nonviolent communication. It's a wonderful technique.
Baba Sambhava? Are you talking about
No,
him?
Marshall Rosenberg. He's a guy now, you know, and he goes, what's alive in you today? And I really like that. If you sit down and you have your little sacred place, and whether it's just before you go to sleep at night or setting your alarm a little bit early in the morning, so when you first, to me it's best, first thing in the morning, sit down, what's alive in me today? You know, and if it's just all kinds of, you know, I'm anxious about this, my work is this, that's okay, just sit with it and let it be there without trying to push it away, you know, and if you can, and what we did in our meditation, maybe we'll do the meditation again, if you don't mind, I might just do it all over again for 15 minutes, is that when you connect with that sense of love, you know, loving, see, I think meditation, we make the mistake of thinking it's cold. You know, we're just sitting there watching our breath, you know, in and out, this cold kind of sterile kind of experience. But the Dalai Lama says that's a mistake. Meditation should be warm. And that we're not meditating properly if we're just sitting there, you know, this situation like we're a robot watching our breath, you know. That one of the things we need to really connect with is a feeling of loving kindness and gentleness. And quite often we can't find that for ourselves because it's not really something is approved, you know, as growing up in this society, you know, because we it's not like the over egotistical, you know, pride thing. It's just a kind of common sense that I'm a good person, you know, I may screw up, but just we all need to cultivate this sense that no matter what happens, no matter, you know, all the stuff I've done wrong, but still in my basic core, I'm a good person, I know I mean well, and I can give that love for myself. And so I have to start by thinking about somebody else I love, and then I can let myself feel it, because, you know, everything that we experience comes from our mind. There's nothing really that's dependent on the outside. I mean, we have the catalyst, you know, what they call the cooperative condition, you know. You see something pretty in a store and your mind goes this way, and you feel someone hug you and you feel this way. But, you know, someone yells at you, you feel that way. But in actual fact, those feelings come from your brain, isn't it? It's your mind, it's your hormonal system, it's your serotonin, it's your oxytocin, it's your, you know. And so the thing is that we can learn to access those feelings on our own if we just give it a little work, a little try. And sometimes you can't. I mean, sometimes, you know, your neurotransmitters are just not going that way, you know. So then if you want to feel good, you need to watch a silly movie, you know, like that makes you whatever, you know, or go be with people or something. And we can't always be able to transform a situation. And so I think also we shouldn't be down on ourselves as we sit down and we're like, oh, I meditate, I'm supposed to be feeling loving kindness, and all I feel is I just feel like shit. And, you know, I mean, sometimes that's the case, you know, so we just still sit with it. But then maybe it's a good idea to, like, there's nothing wrong with pampering yourself a little bit. We don't need to all the time. We don't need to go, like, overboard with retail therapy and all that stuff. But because it takes a while sometimes to overcome the situation in your life. But I really believe that if you begin to cultivate remembering people that you love, remembering scenes, you know, and for compassion, like a lot of times if I need to develop compassion, I'll think of something I've seen on the news about the families in Iraq or Afghanistan who've lost their homes, you know, or the vets who are coming back and they, you know, they have brain injuries and things like that. I mean, I think it's really helpful to use props, you know, for you to get your feeling, get your emotions going, the emotions that you want. to have happen. You can, that's part of mind training, is finding, and you see, everybody's different. I can't tell you what's gonna make you feel that way. I mean, maybe you wanna see pictures of bunny rabbits jumping around. I mean, I don't know, you know. But something that lifts your mood, you know. And if it's a situation of grief, then maybe it's okay to just feel grief for a while. You don't have to shift it. You know, we don't have to be Pollyanna and everything's okay all the time. You know, sometimes things aren't okay. But the point is to not move away from what's happening. And if you sit with it long enough, then it will shift. And I know for me, sometimes it might take a few days for something to, you know, for me to work with. A lot of you are have studied Buddhism, and so you know the different mind training techniques. You know, the idea of, you know, seeing everything as an opportunity. You know, sometimes it's hard to find that situation as an opportunity, and you have to do, you know, quite a bit of soul searching. Now, how can this be a benefit to me? This situation I'm in right now. You know, say you just lost your job. Well, how can that be a benefit to me? You go, well, another job's kind of going to be better. But it takes a while sometimes to make that shift so that you actually feel it in yourself. And that's why I like the practice of Tonglen, which I think we'll do later on, but we're not going to do Tonglen first. So, I'm not so good at talking. So does anybody else want to add to what I'm saying, or questions or anything? Back to the formless, clear nature of mind, because that's a really important thing to get. Yeah, Chris.
As far as that's concerned, I've heard an analogy to this before, and it really.
Can you speak up, because it's a big
Yeah.
question.
I've heard an analogy with this before, similar to the water that you made.
Yeah.
And it helped put it in perspective for me a lot. It's like you have a question, one that you know the answer to, like how old are you? You know that's attention. You have one that you don't know the answer to, like when you're gonna die. That's attention. And we have the other way as well. So the attention's always there, regardless if I recognize it.
Right.
And
You're talking about awareness,
yes.
attention, yeah.
Attention, awareness, whatever word you want to use it for. And I'm, or the little me, whatever, is more like that. And you can put it in terms of big and little. Little me, big me. Everywhere. Everything. You know? And, that's it.
Yeah, no, there's one whole meditation, I think used to be a friend of mine who was a Buddhist monk for a while. And he got into this very simple technique just called big mind, little mind. And Suzuki Roshi used to talk about that too. So, and I think maybe from a neuroscience point of view, it's more like, you know, your alpha wave state and your beta wave state, where what the other one is. You know, and one of them is the mind that we developed as human beings to save us from the saber-toothed tigers, you know, and to make sure we got our family fed. And that's the mind that we inhabit most of the time. And the other mind, the bigger mind, which is the mind of compassion, the mind of spaciousness, the mind of awareness, the mind that's aware of the clear mind, you know, that one we have to work at. We have to train ourselves to be aware of that mind. But it's not impossible, and you will get glimpses of it. So, should we try and meditate again? Would you like to try that? I'm just going to repeat, I think, what we did, because the other thing.
Your tea, I
Oh no, I'm
forgot.
good.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm great. Right now it's water. But so I think the main things to understand is that, okay, we've got our object of meditation, which is breathing in our bodies, because I really want you to get used to the feeling of that meditation is a whole body experience. It's not just up here looking at your mind. You're feeling your whole body. Because when you feel your whole body, it's much easier to drop into that deeper state, because it exists there, you know. And so the other thing is, so we have the object, what we're working with is our breath and our body, but then the other thing we need is this idea of training ourselves to come back to that, because the mind's nature is to wander. And so when our minds wander, we catch ourselves wandering, we're just going to bring ourselves back to breathing and being in our bodies. And the next part that's very important is this idea of gentleness, being gentle with yourself. And allowing yourself to be okay just as you are. I remember back in the 60s there was some therapy book called I'm Okay, You're Okay. I don't know who that was about, but it just came to my mind, you know. That I'm okay, you're okay. And the thing is that the more we become familiar with being okay with ourselves, then it's so much easier to be okay with other people. You know? And I think that's one of the beauties, is that we, you know, that whole, I think it's just human nature to be judgmental, you know, because we need to have a discerning mind. And I'm not saying we're gonna stop our discernment and become Pollyannas and everything's good. We still need to recognize when bad things happen. You know, we need to, and so, but part of this awareness thing of bringing your mind back is you becoming more and more familiar with the different states of mind that you have. So then you can recognize them as they arise and work with them rather than just being a slave to our emotions. We get some kind of a little bit of freedom by this capacity of looking at them. So, are you game to do a little more looking? Okay. So. Oh, and there's one more thing I want to say, is that it's important too, okay, we have the awareness or the precision of being aware of our mind. We have the environment that we're in, which is breathing and watching our breath. But the other thing we want to do is we can begin to, as we're watching the breathing and as the breath goes out, we're cultivating just entertaining the idea of letting go of that thought. You know, not only do you see it, but as you breathe out, you imagine that you're just breathing out that thinking that you're having. So you become more and more open and spacious. Okay? So we just start with the straight back. Loosen pants so that your belly can relax. This is not a fitness game. You can be as fat as you are. Let your belly hang out. And just begin by noticing the breath going in and the breath going out. With a little more emphasis on the breath going out, and as it goes out, you think you just are aware of letting go. Just try that for a little while. And I'll keep adding components to it. Your chin is slightly tucked in, and your tongue is touching the roof of the mouth, and your eyes are slightly open or closed. And the first thing we do is just kind of check in with what we're feeling and thinking. then we begin to add the body awareness. So we start with the feet, feeling your feet on your cushion or on the floor. And so as you breathe in, you just pay attention to feeling your feet, and as you breathe out, you just let go and just let everything be. You notice your heels and your ankles. Your lower legs. And it's almost like you're just sort of touching your body from the inside with a soft caress. In a sense of welcoming yourself home into your body. Become aware of the knees. So it's a cumulative thing. So when we say the knees, we're still aware of our feet and our ankles and our legs and our knees. And we can imagine that our body becomes almost like it's hollow. And our thighs. It's almost like checking in with a sense of hello, being grateful to have your body. You don't have to think about words, but just a feeling of kind of care, you know. Here I am, this body, this life, I have this body. Then we feel the sitting bones and the whole pelvic girdle area, and feel it's good to pay attention to the sitting bones on the cushion, on the chair. And you might want to kind of rotate around a little bit to find a more comfortable position. Because quite often if you rotate your pelvis just slightly forward so that you're sitting right on those sitting bones, you'll find your belly relaxes and you're able to open up any tension in your belly. And so then we become aware of breathing into the lower navel area, around the whole expanding breathing, full belly breathing. Like, you know, you've seen the Buddhas with the big belly? We're going to be doing that. Just allow your whole muscles of your diaphragm to relax, so that your spirit with the breath inhabits your belly region. And as you exhale again, we just let go. And we expand the breathing into the middle part of the back, so that we're breathing right into the back of the rib cage. You might even want to put your hands there to make sure you're expanding the back of the ribs, the front of the ribs, under the whole diaphragm area, solar plexus area. So what we're doing is we're kind of beginning to feel like our body's hollow, and we can blow it up like a balloon and make it as big as possible on the inside using our breath. into the belly, the middle part. Then we're going to expand the whole upper part of your lungs. So you really feel like you're making your body as big as you can on the inside. And you feel your breasts rising and the breath going under the collarbone and behind the shoulder blades, and allowing the breathing to hold it back straight. And as you exhale, your body still stays big, but you just let all the air out and let go. So you might find yourself breathing much slower than usual, and that's okay for now. It should be kind of soothing feeling inside by breathing slowly into your whole body. And then seeing the whole body is hollow. As you exhale, you imagine the exhale going down the arms and legs, filling up the head, up the crown of the head. So as you're breathing in, you're filling up the whole body, and as you exhale, the exhale also goes up through the arms, legs, even out the eyes and the ears, the crown of the head. So your whole body becomes more open, spacious. The tongue's touching the roof of the mouth, the chin slightly tucked in. You feel your eyebrows relaxing. The inside of your mouth opening up a little bit. You might even want to put a little smile on your face, just the idea of a smile naturally sends the happy hormones when you put a smile on your face. And the last thing we add is this feeling of gentleness and loving kindness. Sometimes it just comes naturally when we start breathing into our whole body, breathing slowly, the kind of inner caress. Then we can think of our loved ones. And just allow ourselves to just be sitting here and feeling happy and loving, no reason at all. Just giving ourselves this nourishment, this healing, loving, breathing experience. If you visualize light, you can think that this loving energy is the form of rainbow light or white light, and so you're filling your body with this light. It's focused at the heart. And as you exhale, you just let go. You just feel everything let go. Your mind lets go. And if you're sleepy, that's okay. The main thing is not to judge anything and just be with what's ever happening. Brightening ourselves up and letting ourselves feel our true nature of inner goodness and clarity and light. You to feel like your body's becoming more porous. And as you exhale, this light, this loving light that you're breathing in, can leave through all the pores of your skin so that your whole body becomes very light, as if in the nature of breath and spirit. So remember, we're not pushing anything away. We're not following the thoughts either. Once we recognize them, we just come back without changing anything, without putting any labels on it, just being with the truth of what's happening in the present moment. Then we can just relax. That was great. That was 20 minutes. A lot of people think, oh, I can't sit for 20 minutes. But we stopped for 20 minutes. So if you when you work with this technique, you can just, build on it yourself, And then, you get to the final point where you're just sitting in this situation where in the beginning, it might not work so well, but if you keep practicing it, it will come to the point where you get to the point where you just sit down, and immediately you go through your body, and you remember the people that you love, and you just can create this quiet space. Especially because if you know that underneath all of that stuff that's going on, this is always there. And it's such a nice refuge to know that if I practice this enough, that I can get to this space where And the more you do it, the more you see the clarity of your mind, and the more it becomes a real refuge for you. And it's I think in these times, it's a really important thing to be able to do, because we can get so frustrated with what's going on, you know. And it really helps to open your heart to just, you know, these are the times we're in, you know. We've only got these times we're living in, you know, so. And by becoming more and more true to what's going on in truth for us, we can be more accepting of what's true for others, and be more open to good communication, I think, because a lot of there's so much division right now in our society, you know, that we need to be able to be true to ourselves and true to our clarity and what's real for us, but at the same time not reject other people, you know, because there's so much rejection going on, you know, and so much fear. And the other thing that's really good about this meditation is that it really helps you to overcome fear, because you just see that fear is just another mind state. It's just another cloud in the sky, and we don't have to allow ourselves to be overwhelmed by fear. Right? I mean, even if things don't work out, you know, if we don't get our health insurance, you know, I mean, it's okay, you know, something will work, you know, and even if it doesn't work, I mean, okay, you know. But to get all worked up about stuff, it's just going to make us sick. And the last thing we need to be now is sick, you know. And so I feel like this is really basic health practice, actually, you know, for your mental health, for your physical health, because we all know that stress is the killer. And so if we can learn to, you know, decide, I'm going to do this for myself, you know, then we're in a much better shape to be a benefit to our families and our friends. You know, I don't need to repeat myself. So, but what I'd like now is to hear what you have to say. Do some of that. Don't be shy. Yeah.
Doesn't negative vibes around you affect your meditation? Because like right now it's such a good ambience here.
Yeah.
It was easy.
Yeah.
Like when I tried to do this at work,
Yeah.
not easy.
Yeah, well, I think at work, if you can go outside, if you have a place outside, sometimes you can get some, I mean, I know when I used to work, I used to go find a park.
No, not in my place.
Yeah.
It's all kind of like in a full observation, so if I'm gonna sit there, people are just gonna ask me, oh,
Yeah, well, there must be somewhere, you need to find a place that's
Right.
not in the middle of the, you know, all the different offices and things. There must be somewhere. Isn't there like even a,
well, I can probably work that, but
Yeah.
I noticed like if I try to just take a few minutes.
yeah, even if you go to the lunchroom and sit by yourself, pretend like you're taking a nap, you know, just close your eyes, people will leave you alone, hopefully.
No, what I try to say, like, if the people in the room with you who have negative.
Yeah, well,
thoughts or
that's
something,
true,
they
and
deserve-
and later on, because I decided this, we're gonna do truth and compassion. So the first step is learn to do this meditation, and then we're gonna add another meditation after lunch, which is the taking and giving, which helps you deal with negativity. But another thing you can do that comes from our tantric practice, I don't know, you know, these deities around here, is you see, look around, but look behind you, see the white Tara? See how she has that, like, that ring of flowers around her? You know, or Manjushri, how Buddha has the rainbow coming out from him. You see how they all have these little auras around them?
Right.
Well, you just visualize that. And so when you're sitting around in your sea of negativity, you see how those rainbows are coming out from Medicine Buddha? So you just put that around you. You just visualize all those rainbows, and like you're in a great big bubble, and that you're being protected from that stuff. And also, I mean, I don't know how much we want to get into Buddhist stuff, but you know, if you want to see, you know, Medicine Buddha at your heart, this Buddha here, that's a really great tanka. I mean, that you guys have some great stuff here, you know, good Buddhist.
The middle one?
The middle one.
Uh-huh.
You see that? Or the red one or the white one, but any one, you know, the one that if you look around the room, there's the green one. Now you look around the room and see one that kind of jumps out at you, the one that you feel the most resonance with. And take that one as like your protector. And you can visualize that red Buddha or blue Buddha or white Buddha or green Buddha. This is a female, I mean, this is the one I love the most. This is Green Tara, you know, she's total protector. So you can visualize that Green Tara is at your heart, and with the lights around like the Medicine Buddha has, You sit there and then do your meditation and feel like when you're sitting down that Tara's in your heart and she's protecting you. And that'll really help. Try it. Give it a try and see. I mean, the thing about Dharma is it's all very scientific. It's just an experiment, you know. And what Lama Tsongkhapa said and what Buddha says, just try it. You know, and try different ones that work for you. And then if it doesn't work, try something else. But, yeah, it's all open for...
Well, thank you. It's nice to have tools like that too.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah, so really just see yourself, you know, surrounding your whole body in like a bubble of light and color. And they can't touch you. And there's a really great image of Buddha when he attained enlightenment and he's sitting under the Bodhi tree. I don't know, maybe we could find it somewhere. And it shows all these arrows going at him and different things coming at him because, so all the, you know, and so he put himself in this protection wheel, and so all of this negativity couldn't touch him. And there's some reality to it, especially when you invoke the protection of these beings, because, you know, whether we believe they're real beings or not, but the way I understand it, because I always try to put everything in more of a scientific perspective rather than a religious perspective, but if you think of the idea that mind has a vibration, you know, it does. I mean, they can measure these mind waves now. And so if we think that, you know, for 3,000 years, people have been visualizing this deity with the energy of protection, that it's almost like a radio station, you know, you're going to dial into that radio station so that you get that radio wave. Does that make sense? So when you dial into Buddha, when you take refuge, because we're not going to talk about refuge, but when you take refuge in the Buddha, when you turn I'm going to dial to that station, I'm going to dial to Green Tara station, I think somehow it hooks you up with all the thousands of beings around the planet, and for thousands of years who've been, like, that vibration is in the atmosphere. And so when you tune into it, you get that protection. And the more you have faith in it, because faith and intention are the most important aspects of these kinds of meditations. If you really believe it, then it'll work for you. Does anyone want to comment on that? Anybody have any experience with that? Yes, Carrie.
Carly.
Carly.
This is more about a dream that I had on Thursday. It
Yeah.
was exactly what you said in the first meditation
Yeah.
about.
So do you have to speak up because these people?
I had a dream Wednesday or Thursday of myself talking to myself when I was a little girl.
Yeah. That's a great meditation.
And you brought that up today.
Yeah.
And I just think that's a miracle that
Yeah.
I dreamt that and then
Yeah.
you brought it up. So.
Yeah, well, one of the ways I've done a lot of healing on myself, because I've never been to a therapist, but I took kind of Lama Yeshe's, you know, advice becoming your own therapist, is I would get into this state, you know, that I'm talking about, letting myself do this, and then bring up the little girl in me that needed help. And when you get relaxed enough, you can let her talk, you know, and because a lot of times, you know, a lot of our pains and things is because when we were children, we weren't allowed to, like you and your grief, you know, we weren't allowed to let it out. And then let it out and talk to her and cuddle her and tell her she's going to be okay, you know, because nobody can have perfect parenting, you know, but we can go back and be the perfect parent. And then because that's kind of a separate thing. But what that does is it allows a lot of that judgmental thinking, like a lot of, I said, you know, we have an experience, but then we bring our own projection on top of it, and that's why we get the experience we get. A lot of times those projections are stuck because they're stuck in something that happened when we were 5 years old, and so it keeps coming back, it keeps coming back, it keeps coming back. And so when we allow ourselves to get in this calm state and let that experience come back up again and give it a different story, a different healing, then the possibility of getting the same thing coming over and over, you're like, why did I do that again? You know, I reacted again in that same old way. Why am I stuck? It's usually because something happened when you were 3 or 2. And if you can learn to get into this meditation state enough that you can feel safe enough, that's why you have to do it for a while to feel safe. Then you can do your own healing on your own work, and then your level of projection and upsetness becomes less. Because they're just imprints. You know, the mind is just a habit, and we got into a habit of dealing with difficult situations in the ways we could best survive as children. I mean, that's just basic psychology. We had to learn the way to survive. But a lot of times the way we chose to survive doesn't really help us anymore as adults. It didn't even help us as children, but it's what we had. And so one of the things that I'm talking about, learning about your own truth, is creating this inner environment, this inner space enough to let that truth come out. Because quite often there's stuck in your subconscious, and your truth might be something like, you know, what I can't think of an example. You know, every time somebody says a critical remark to me, I'm going to immediately go into poor me, you know, or I'm immediately going to an aggressive mode, and I'm stuck at that. And it's because it's the way it's the imprints, it's the habits that I started as a young child. And so it often helps to go back to those original ideas and work with it, and then it helps let go more in the present tense, you know. So that's thank you for bringing that up, Carrie, because it's Carrie? Carly. Sorry, I'll get it.
It came to me in my dream.
Yeah, no,
So,
that's very powerful,
yeah.
you know. And so it means that you're ready to do that now.
Yeah.
And the other thing that's real nice about these meditation practices, if you do this before you go to sleep, you often have very vivid dreams. And you can and so it starts creating the passageways for your unconscious to begin speaking to you and helping you heal yourself. You know, and you can, before you go to sleep at night, you can say, oh, I'd like to remember my dream. And so meditation helps you contact your unconscious. It also helps you become more creative in your whatever your work is, you know. And so, I mean, it really is a beneficial 20 minutes of your day. Yeah.
Well, thanks a lot for coming out. I really appreciate your insight and your scientific spin that you're putting on things.
Yeah.
You talk about frequencies and cycles are
Yeah.
like a really big thing that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
One of the most profound things that happened to me, that was a few years ago. I was just swimming in the ocean, and I was just a few feet off the beach, and I noticed the waves just coming in, just as cycles, and it really woke me up to the fact that I'm really connected with everything, and that the moon cycle, everything operates on a cycle. So I've really.
And the moon cycle especially, like right now we're heading towards the downtime of the moon, you know.
Yeah.
I always notice that when the moon's going into its dark phase, I have less energy. I don't know if you notice. You guys notice that?
Yeah.
And as soon as the new moon comes and it starts going towards full moon, my whole creative everything is, you know.
So that's a real thing.
It's a real thing. I mean, look, if the moon affects the tides, and we're 90% water, whatever we are, why isn't it going to affect us? Right? Yeah, and there's more and more, thanks to the Dalai Lama, you know, there's more and more scientific investigation going on in how the mind works. It's because he knows it's scientific. And what Buddha taught was scientific back then. It's just never put into language. In fact, the Dalai Lama said a long time ago, he said he thinks in his lifetime that the scientists will develop an instrument to measure the subtle mind that moves from life to life to life, so that reincarnation will become more of a scientific fact rather than just a mythological thing, you know. And already there was a movie or something called 21 Grams, or what was that? Something about it, that they've already discerned that a body weighs 21 grams more when it's alive than when it's dead. And that 21 grams is quite possibly, you know, the subtle mind that moves from life to life to life. So they're getting close already. But the other thing that you're talking about, the waves, is that one of Lama Yeshe's favorite metaphors was that, you know, thoughts are just waves on the water. And that our mind is the big vast ocean. And this surface thing of the waves are coming and going. And so what we're trying to do as meditators is become more identified with the ocean and less with the waves. And it's not that we have to reject the waves, but we just see them as waves coming and going. You know, this childhood stuff, or my problem at work, or the grief with my friends, and not to push away that stuff, but just try to feel the deeper reality of who you are, because it's so rich, and it's so satisfying. Because I think one of the things that I mean, as a young adult, one of the main reasons I got involved in meditation is because it was the 70s and we were very much aware of the global warming coming. And all these things that we're seeing now, the fact we're going to run out of oil, and all the things that's happening now. I mean, it was all predicted way back then, just nobody paid attention. And I came to the conclusion that the real root of all the problems of the human beings, most of the problems, is just greed. And greed is completely taken advantage of by the advertising agency and all the malls, and the capitalism is based on greed. If we didn't have a lot of greed, our economic system wouldn't work, and that is the downfall of our economic system, is that it's based on greed. And it even says, Adam Smith said, greed is good, and so we're all about cultivating greed, but that's what's killing our planet, and that's what's killing ourselves. And that's what causes all the human problems, is me, my greed. And unfortunately, the dominant society is all about that. But what I find, the reason why I really want to encourage people to meditate, is that you become liberated from needing to think that I need to go buy something to feel good about myself. I mean, it doesn't mean it's still not fun to go shopping, but it means that you don't have that I don't feel good, well, but maybe I better go get some ice cream. Or maybe I better go, watch another YouTube or something. The thing about meditation is you begin to have a sense of inner satisfaction and inner peace that's no longer going to be prey to all of that stuff out there that's trying to hook you to spend all your money on stuff you don't need, right? So that's another thing about these practices and about Dharma that's different, that helps. That's so, I feel, I mean, my sense is that it's kind of like an evolutionary step, that if we don't learn to do this, another 100 years there might not be any people left on this planet. It might only be 50 years. I mean, we don't know how fast the change is coming. But living in Florida, you guys are definitely aware of all the hurricanes and everything, and the fires in California. It's getting to be that you just can't live in Northern California because the air quality is so bad.
You live there?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I don't now, but that's where my family is and everything. But, my brother, he's saying, I've never been where I just can't wait for the winter. I can't stand summer anymore because they're all going to get sick. I don't know if you saw the photographs of the San Francisco Bay Area, but, for a few weeks, it was just bad, Everyone had to wear masks and they can't breathe. So the scientists have been telling since the 1950s this was coming. But because of our economic system is based on greed, we can't reverse it. We're stuck. What was George Bush's problem, for 9/11? What should you do? Go out and go shopping. That's what he told everybody. Go out and go shopping. So I don't know what the answer is, but all I can say is that this really helps. And it isn't hard. It doesn't cost anything. You might want to buy yourself a nice, Buddha statue or something, but, it's not, you don't even need to go pay at a gym. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a question. You mentioned the interaction with the brain
Yeah.
and the mind.
Mm-hmm.
In most of our main spiritual people, Buddha and Jesus, were trying to teach us that the goal is to really relax or try to calm our mind.
Yeah.
Buddhism. So in theory, at the time that we die,
Yeah.
the time that the brain is not bombarding us with thoughts, then the mind should be calm and more pure, right? But the irony is that the mind needs to come back somehow. It's like the mind knows that that body is gonna get in trouble because all this greed and all these things. Now that I don't have that body, I don't have that, and I'm calm, I need to come back again. it's like the mind needs the body.
No,
to
what it
purify
is it's
itself.
karma. There's such a thing as karma.
Right. When you reach enlightenment,
Yeah. You don't
That-
need to come back anymore.
because that mind has achieved something
That's right.
and doesn't have to come back.
Yeah, no.
So the mind doesn't have awareness of itself.
No, the
needs the
mind.
body.
No, the mind still has awareness of itself when it's enlightened. It's definitely still
When
has
it's
awareness of
enlightenment,
itself.
but
yeah.
when it's not.
Well, you mean like after we die, do we have
Right,
awareness?
because if the mind will have awareness of itself after we die, even though we haven't reached enlightenment,
Yeah.
the mind wouldn't come back to a human body because it will create more problems.
Yeah, but the thing is that we're not free of karma yet. And so what happens is that the reason our minds keep firing thoughts is because we keep having thoughts. And so because of karma, the mind keeps going, thinking. So as soon as you die, you still have thought. And so, you're going to still have an experience. And pretty soon you're propelled into another body, just like that, just based on the fact that you haven't stopped your karma. You can't stop your thoughts. We can't do it. I mean, we work at it through meditation.
Yeah,
And wait, let me just finish. And so the thing, one of the most important practices that comes up in Buddhism is teaching you how to die, so that you can die in a very relaxed, caring, loving space. So that it's true, you're going to come back with a different rebirth. But they say what Buddha taught was that the kind of the quality of the mind at the time of death is going to influence your next rebirth. So if you die in a state of fear, it's not going to be such a great rebirth. So that's another major reason to begin to learn to meditate, is it so that when the death time comes, you can get yourself in that calm, peaceful, caring, loving space, so that you can't stop the fact that you're going to have another rebirth, but you can certainly help influence what kind of rebirth you're going to have. And I think one of the most telling things is that I have some friends, and I've read about it too, whose fathers were in World War II. And especially, I have some English friends where we saw a lot of horrible combat too. And those vets came back from World War II and were never able to talk about it again. They're like her grief, which I can't remember. But the fact that they just had to pretend like everything was normal. They got on, they got their jobs at the office, and the 50s came and everything was perfect. And now, as those people are, 85 and 90 years old, as they start to die, all the nightmares are coming back. And they're dying in a horrible state, which is so sad. In fact, I heard one newscast on NPR that there's a lot of suicide happening with these vets that are 89 years old because the extreme pain that's coming back as they're facing death is just more than they can handle. And I mean, that to me was such a huge sadness, that we can't help these people. And so this was in New York City, so I think now they're having like support groups for aging vets. So, kind of learning to work with your mind before you die is a very important thing. Thank you for bringing that up. But you were going to say something else.